There was a big kerfuffle 5 years ago, and it hit the academic scene in a way like you wouldn't believe. There was a huge kerfuffle because they found out that modern mindfulness, which they thought was this practice that would just by nature make you less egoic, more selfless, more loving. They started finding in the cognitive literature, sort of buried in the literature, and then they actually did some studies on it, that doing mindfulness practice as an independent practice without all the other spiritual trappings of being a part of a religious system actually makes you more arrogant, which is a really fascinating, or at least that people were becoming more arrogant while training in meditation. Uh, you know? So Buddhism is broken down into three main components: ethics, like the stuff that you should do, and the stuff you shouldn't do at the most obvious level of your experience. Then there's training in meditation, which mostly has to do with, at least for purposes of this discussion, mostly has to do with training in concentration. Okay. And then being able to do really profound forms of analysis using concentration. And then there's wisdom. And the wisdom aspect is now that you have the ability to concentrate your mind, now that you have the ability to do really profound types of analysis with a concentrated mind, what do you apply that to? What do you use it to do? It's like you've made this incredibly sharp knife of concentration. You've like really honed the edge with gaining all these analytical skills. Now what do you cut with it? Yeah. So wisdom in Buddhism is the cutting part. What do we need to cut? Well, from a Buddhist perspective, you make all of these cognitive errors. You and again, you don't even have to rely on Buddhism for this anymore. There is in Western cognitive psychological literature all of this discussion of massive error theory. And a massive error theory means that basically there are baked into your perceptual processes and cognitive processes are all of these mistakes to the effect that you don't see how things really are. I mean, this should sound pretty familiar. This is like the basis of Hindu and Buddhist philosophy 101. But Buddhism, in particular, said, look, if you train in concentration, then you know where your mind is going, you know what it's doing, you can gain access to all of the components making up the parts of your mind that you need to access to do the analysis. You can develop the skills, you can sharpen the knife so that it's really sharp and it can cut into the layers of what's going on and understand all the layers of your being. And then the wisdom aspect is here's the fact of the matter according to the great meditators. Once you've done all this work, once you've cut, here's what you find, right? That's the wisdom. And so what is the wisdom? In this case, it's the wisdom of selflessness and the wisdom of emptiness. What kind of self is not there? It's the one that we described an hour ago. And what is it empty of? It's not that there's nothing there. It's that the cognitive mistakes you're making when you look closely, that's not how it exists. You thought this was a permanent thing. That's how it sort of appeared to your cognitive process. When you look closely, it's not permanent. It's impermanent. So the cognitive error is seeing it as impermanent, thinking about it as impermanent, emotionally engaging with it as if it were permanent. The wisdom is you gain concentration, you gain a really sharp knife of analysis, you cut through the errors that you're making, and you come to see the object as impermanent. You come to emotionally relate to the object as impermanent. In the same way, there are ways of, let's say, cognizing or knowing the self that are mistakes. When you can cut through those, that's wisdom.